You had a tweet about how you think the strongest bull case for Ethereum in terms of the flippening is that it gets regulatory captured and centralized and could be fiat 2.0. Can you elaborate on this topic thesis more, and how likely slash unlikely is this?
So I think, if you talk to some of the Bitcoin bulls, they'll say there's like no chance that Ethereum can ever be larger than Bitcoin. Whereas I view it as a non-zero chance that at least for a period of time, Ethereum becomes a larger system. It's not my base case, but it's something that I would not rule out. But then the question becomes, just because it's larger, that doesn't mean that it's solving the same problems that Bitcoin does, right? So the proof of stake element kind of, it requires more governance in the system to run than a proof of work system. And the risk there is that, basically with blockchain, there's a lot of design trade-offs, right? If you want to have it process more transactions or process transactions quicker, or if you want to have smart contracts on the base layer, all these things basically make it harder to run a node. And therefore the network ends up becoming more centralized. And there's other aspects too, like, basically because Ethereum has, smart contracts and decentralized exchanges and leverage and things like that, there's this kind of juicy market for front running trades. So, in Bitcoin, mining is pretty simple. You just kind of pick the high fee transactions and stick them into the next block. Whereas in Ethereum, there's actually ways where you can almost be like, you're like a market maker that can go and front run the people that are trying to get in the queue, and you can therefore get more revenue from that. And that's
Yeah.
a pretty centralizing force because the entities that are sophisticated enough to construct those blocks are, not that many, right? And so it's actually, it's pretty hard to be involved there. We also see that, most, because proof of stake, you need 32 ETH to be a validator. So a lot of people, what they'll do is they'll deposit their Ethereum on Coinbase or
Mhm.
Kraken, or they'll use liquid staking like Lido. And so, a small number of entities end up controlling most of the staked coins, which means that, if they wanted to say if they wanted to block Tornado Cash at the entire network level, there's only a handful of entities they'd have to go after to do that on a proof of stake system, whereas it's harder to do on a proof of work system. So I think the risk there is that, in one way of looking at it, the current fiat system is essentially a proof of stake system.
Mhm.
And so, a proof of stake system that's in blockchain form can get pretty large, but then it risks getting captured and centralized and censored, and it kind of
Yep.
defeats the purpose of why Satoshi kind of invented this whole thing in the first place, which is to at least try to create a system that can be free of being blocked in any way, which again is scary to people in some ways because you think, well, that means criminals and terrorists can use it, right? But of course, the group of people in the world that want to use a system like that for good purposes and that need a system like that far outweighs the number of people that want to use it for nefarious purposes. It's kind of like the internet, right? So when people created the internet, it's like, well, this can enable bad things on the internet. Well, yeah, it does, but 99% of it is good, or at least a lot of it is good, and the minority is people using it for bad purpose. And I think the same is kind of true for the idea of uncensorable transactions.